Welcome to Advertising Champions, brought to you by the Daily Ad Brief. I'm your host, David Benfield. On this show, we speak to a panel of advertising experts to give you little tips or tricks of the trade to make you an expert yourself. So joining me today, I've got Christopher Quirin and Effie Philippakos. Hey guys, how you doing today?
Good.
Great, thank you.
All right, Chris, let's get started. Let's just jump right down to it. So what challenges do you encounter with digital ads versus something like for television or broadcast?
Well, my background was in television advertising for most of my career, and then I went to digital out of home and place-based media. To me, a screen is a screen. It's a matter of what audience it's trying to attract, where the space it's located in, and what the attraction time is for the screen. With the advent of programmatic and everybody kind of just trying to get as much reach as possible at the lowest CPM possible, that became a challenge because it really didn't match how we traditionally plan media, which is to look at what the KPIs are, who the target audience is, psychographically, psychologically, geographically. So there was some bumps and some learning that had to take place in initially coming into this. I've been in the digital space now for about probably 10, 12 years. And it keeps evolving. It's getting better.
Excellent. And Effie, what about you? Do you find any difference when you're purchasing or when you're dealing with digital advertising versus, say, television or broadcast or even radio for that matter?
Yeah, so just to give you context, my experience is 100% in digital, so I can respond to that. The issues I'm running into, because we're a startup, is more of the time it takes, right, to develop video content, which is why we haven't engaged in that. But with respect to just media buys within digital advertising, I would say that, the challenges around the data privacy and that ever-evolving landscape is definitely one that, is going to affect how we think about buying media. I would say the other piece of it is just the dynamic pace of the evolution of these platforms and the capabilities around these platforms. There's just not one person that knows everything, so it really requires a very strong collaborative effort to be able to manage through that.
Yeah, Effie, let's just kind of piggyback that a little bit, leads me into my next question. So, how do you see the digital ad world changing?
Well, you kind of see it already if we're just talking about data privacy. I mean, at the heart of it, it's just that consumers don't trust, right? The way that companies are collecting the data and using it, right? And so what has become interesting is that there's been a regulatory response, but the actual interesting response that we're starting to feel is really with the browsers, right? And their ability in terms of, Apple leading the charge with the decreased shelf life of cookies all the way through to, blocking, cross-device markers, and Google is going to block third-party tracking as well, and Firefox I think has already blocked it. So really what the implications are is that the media measurement is not going to be as strong to help make allocation decisions. I think the other piece of it is that there'll be constraints around reach and frequency management. But the other piece of it will also be targeting constraints, which won't really enable the kind of personalization, right? Content personalization that we've been accustomed to.
Chris, you were shaking your head quite a bit with that. So is there something you want to add? You want to piggyback that a little bit?
No, I definitely agree with Effie. I think the problem is that, we've moved away from third-party data, which I think is very important. I think first-party data is probably the most critical aspect. And I think, unfortunately, too many algorithms are out there that basically just do name matches or can only capture one portion of the data that's needed to be measured and understood. And that's probably a bigger problem for me right now, is that I can buy, 15 networks right now. Okay, I can call one person and call up a DSP or an SSP and figure out how to make a buy. But again, measuring what the effect of that buy is going to be very difficult. Excuse me.
All right, so that kind of talks a little bit about pain points a bit, but let's talk about successes, right? So sometimes it's much more fun, and we'll kind of wrap it up with this. So, what has been your most surprising success with the digital ad buying, right? Like what's just wowed you? Like, I can't believe that actually worked. And Effie, we'll go ahead and start with you on this one.
Well, I think at the heart of it, I find that people, when they're buying media on these digital platforms, there's, I think, a lack of at least literacy, overt literacy in terms of how they work. At the heart of it, they're platforms, right? That run on machine learning algorithms, and so I think you have to be, and so I've implemented a lot of tactics around that knowledge in terms of providing data, more data to these platforms, or really focusing on the structure of the campaigns, because that structure influences how much data gets in, right, to feed the algorithms and inform the ad delivery systems. And I think the other piece of it has been, I've been very successful with aligning the bids to our profit margins mathematically, and also really focusing on the relevancy metrics.
All right, and Chris, I got about 30 seconds. What about you?
Well, I think, from a success standpoint, I haven't really seen, I'm not overwhelmed by the programmatic buying aspect of digital media. But at the same time, what I've found is I represent a network that has doctors' offices. Next thing I know, they're being bundled in with all sorts of other offers from all sorts of other different platforms. So if I reach out to an ad agency, I have a buy like you do on Health Media Network, the next thing I know, they said, well, we've already bought that programmatically through somebody else. And so the direct sell is kind of lost in the equation. And I think that's something we have to figure out as well.
Gotcha. Right on the ice. Thank you so very much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your afternoon to hang out with us.
Thank you, guys. Effie, nice to meet you.
All right,
Pleasure
guys.
as well,
So
Kristen.
that's going to do it for us here on Advertising Champions. If you'd like to learn more, you can head to dailyadbrief.com. There you can find out what Chris and Effie are up to and find all sorts of other content like this to help make yourself an expert. So we'll catch you on the next episode of Advertising Champions. Till then, have a good day.
Simplify presents Addressable CTV, combining the power of TV with the targeting and attribution of digital. Simplify's Addressable CTV delivers massive reach with the ability to scale without sacrificing precision. TV buyers can generate incremental reach with household-level targeting, frequency controls, reporting, and insights. To learn more about Simplify's Addressable CTV and what it can do for your clients, visit simply.fi.